Today is a big day, gentlemen, a big day. We've got two webinars. We got our cybersecurity webinar, Mike, doing that with Carefree later today. Got a few dozen people coming. See what they have to say. And then we've got our Blue Agent webinar with Coach Sam, 2 o'clock today, Pacific time. Also, while we're just waiting till 5 after to get started, if you guys don't have the podcast on Spotify, or I think there's like 6 platforms, we just put 4 more lessons out this morning for you guys to be able to catch if you missed them on a Wednesday training, and to let your Blue agents know that those lessons are out there. And I was listening to a couple of them. I mean, it's awesome because it's, our conversations here on these topics that we talk about. But it's so good to hear yourself speak. Has anybody went back and watched your presentations, like any of your phase 1s or your phase 2s, and listened to yourself talk? So here's what I realized about myself. As I'm teaching and speaking, I've got these words that I use while I'm thinking, right? And there it was. Do you hear it? Right. And you start listening to yourself talk, and you're like, holy shit, man, stop saying right. Like, you're pissing me off how many times you say right. So now I have a conscious mind to those filler words while I'm trying to process my thoughts. What's the only way that we can eliminate those filler words? Who knows?
I'd say
preparation and certainty.
Replace.
Preparation and certainty, baby. Knowing what the hell you're going to say, so that your mind isn't there constantly spinning like, where's that information? Where's that information? And the only way we get there is repetition. So instead of using a filler word when you don't have the data that you want to use, what should you do?
Pause a second.
Who said that?
I did.
Pause. Just pause. All right. And that's hard for me to do. If you want to control the conversation, pausing is the death of control. You pause too long, you give up control. You give up control, you may get shut down, depending on who you're talking to and what the subject is. It's really most important during that first conversation. Right? See, I just did it again. After you get past the first conversation, you can start to pause longer, because you don't have to worry about the customer not being aware of the value and their lack of desire to be there. So it's really important for appointment setters, cold calling on the phone. You really want to be prepared with your value proposition and the words you're going to use to compel the customer. So, which leads us into our conversation today, right, on how we relay value proposition and then how our words matter. So let's do this. Now that it's 7 minutes after, let's pull up our All Squads channel and let's just do a quick check-in. Based on your targets that you want to accomplish, are you on track or off track? Very simple. On track, off track. And at this point, you should know what your weekly KPIs are that you want to accomplish. I want to put a certain amount of activity into recruiting Blue agents. I want to receive a certain number of P1s from marketing because I owe Blue agents for bringing me deals, so on and so forth. All right. So we got a few on tracks, we got a few off tracks, and this is how we gain awareness. So no matter where you are, here's the most beautiful thing about where you are. It's Wednesday morning. We still have 3 days to go. So if you're off track, all that you have to do is put more energy and effort into the activity that you need to do to get you where you want to go, and the material that is going to help you as you do that activity have the highest percentage of results. So your message to the blue agent, right, which is, and I just did it again, right? I'm going to call myself out on it every time I do it and I realize it. We'll see how many times that happens. Over time, I'm going to eliminate that fucking word from my vocabulary because now it just pisses me off. But the material, right? Getting intimately familiar with the material and how we compel people to move forward. So it all plays into our conversation today that we're going to talk about on sales and on our fuel. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how to set expectations with our customer on value. And we're going to make this interactive. So it's not my voice that is all that people hear when they go back and they listen to this. So what is the first thing that we say when we start to set expectations with a customer on our value? Is it talking about the widget? Is a widget where our value is?
No.
So the first lesson on setting expectations with the customer on value is to know the sequence. So know the sequence of what you're going to talk about first. Because like last week's sales lesson that we did on packaging matters, I think that was last week, there is a structure, a sequence to everything that we do, which falls into the science, which in immersion, we talk a lot about the science of sales, right? The art of human interaction, communications, seduction, persuasion, all boils down to it's a science. Isn't that crazy to think about that we're wired a certain way to respond to things, and people can actually study that and then they can apply it on us, and vice versa. We can study it and apply it on others to get what we want, right? So the sequence of what you're going to talk about first. So now that we think about the sequence, what are the things that fall into the sequence? I'm going to share my screen here so that you can just see the notes I'm taking. I'll share with you guys. So if we know the sequence, or we know that there is a sequence of what we're going to talk about first, what is the first thing in the sequence? What do you guys think it is when talking about value to a customer?
The Blue Equinox experience.
Blue Equinox experience. Why don't we start here?
Because it's unlike anything else they're going to find. I mean, we talked about this in immersion. It's the Ferrari of what the industry that we're in, right? We're giving them something they're not going to find anything anywhere else.
Why does that matter?
Because that's where our value really lies, right? If you have something that nobody else has, it's worth more than anything anybody else has. Supply and demand, however you want to phrase that. I don't know what the right terminology is, but if you have something that's rare, it's worth more than something that's common.
I got something on it too, Scott. I think our role, people expect people like us to come and pitch them solutions all the time, right? So it's about pattern interruption. It's something that's unique to shift their mindset to, whoa, wait a minute, this is different, right? This person is different. The way he's talking to me is different. The way his company's set up to provide this audit is different. All those things are a pattern interruption. And that, I think, sets the stage for them to be a little more open and curious.
That's really good, right? So pattern interruption, create curiosity. There's two words that a customer says that when they say them, you know you got them. Okay. And here they are. Or actually, before I give them to you, who knows what they are? Give me one of them. If someone says something to you that is rare and it interrupts your patterns of thought and it starts to compel you, what are two words that come to mind on that?
That's interesting.
That is interesting. What else? What else? It's interesting. And what else?
Wow.
Tell me
Another
more.
why, another I word.
Intriguing.
That is so interesting. I am so intrigued by what you're saying to me right now. Literally every partner that we have signed up has said one of these two words. That is so intriguing. I'm very interested. You've created a whole new concept of how not just two, but three companies could do business together to capitalize on synergies to maximize the efficiency and productivity and the results that everyone receives. That's interesting. That's intriguing. You have my attention. So we have created something that is rare. We've interrupted their patterns to create curiosity, and the buying signs are the words that they're using to explain how they feel. Feelings lead to actions, right? So we want to make people feel a certain way. Feelings lead to actions. Okay. So the Blue Equinox experience, how do we lead a customer through the Blue Equinox experience? What is our framework?
Tell a story.
What?
Tell a story.
Okay, we tell a story, but in order to tell a story, right, just like there's 5 steps to a conversation, right? Introduction, your short story, your presentation, your close, your rehash. You've got to have a framework of how you tell the story. So what is our framework?
The audit.
The audit. All right. So the 5-phase audit experience is a part of the Blue Equinox experience. Audit is a get to know you, your company, your technologies, then bring in our 5-star handpicked, vetted providers that are going to back up the story that we tell you by providing those services. And we've made sure that their SLAs and their level of commitment are where we expect them to be. And we're going to give you our iron fist guarantee to back that up. All this is relayed to a customer as they move throughout the 5-phase audit. Vendors come in, they do a deep dive technical assessment. The customer starts to understand and see this value. In regards to packaging matters and visual stimulation, this is not quite done just yet, but I expect it to be done today. check this out. So, Mr. Customer, this audit roughly cost you around $5,000 if you were to pay for the time of the people that are coming to the conversation. It's designed to save you time and money. We're going to bring a cyber engineer, a managed IT engineer, cloud engineer, UCAS engineer, data engineer, wireless engineer, and then myself as a high-level CIO level consultant would roughly amount to about $1 million in salaries coming to this conversation, costing you about $4,746 if you were to pay for these people's time. So we've created a framework of how we can operate to systematically bring these people in to get you what you want. Okay. And then before I move on to the 5-phase audit anymore, right? The third thing right here, why it matters. When I ask the question, why does the Blue Equinox experience matter? Because it's rare, because it interrupts patterns and creates curiosity. But the third and most important thing,
delivers value.
Delivers value by delivering relevance to what a customer wants and needs. At the end of the day, there's a saying in sales: no one gives a damn what you want. All the customer cares about is what they want. And when you can align those two things to give the customer what they want so that it gets you what you want, now you're cooking with gas. So we designed the Blue Equinox experience to be rare, to interrupt patterns, and to give the customer what they want and need. Simple as that. And then the framework we go about delivering this experience is the 5-phase audit experience. And it is our framework. Okay. So I'm going to put sequence of events. So Blue Equinox experience, 5-phase audit. What's next? What do we talk about next? Talked about the experience. We talked about the audit. What's the next thing that we talk about that delivers value? How we set expectations with a customer on value.
Guarantees.
Not next. They're a part of it. We'll put it down here. What's next?
Customer service.
Guarantees are going to be, so customer service is going to be an extension of guarantees. Okay. We can't talk about customer service if we don't know what we're servicing. So what's next?
Product knowledge.
Products. Okay. So Friday, I posted a video in the All Squads channel. It was late into the month. It was a video I ran with Derek and Logan. Is this lesson to the letter, where we go through this sequence of events. So when we get to products, in order to set expectations with the customer on value, what must we be able to do?
Describe them.
Educate and inform them.
Educate and inform customer on what? The product?
The product.
How the
benefits
product
their
solves their
The
problem.
benefits of the products.
Educate and inform the customer on how the product solves their biggest problems in technology today and the future. Does anybody want to hear about a product that they don't need?
Has to be relevant.
Has to be relevant to their business and what they want and need. Think about it. Think about it. Put it in reference to your own life. How do you feel when someone talks to you about something that you do not give a shit about? Okay, great. How about those Packers on Sunday? Let's change the subject as fast as possible. All right. No one wants to talk about anything that is not relevant to their wants and needs. So when you go into a conversation, if you put that at the forefront of your thought process, knowing who the person you're talking to is, what is their title? Are they a strong influencer or are they a key decision maker? What is going to matter most to them? How many key decision makers are there that we could potentially talk to inside of a business? Come on, guys. This should be jumping off your tongue. Five key decision makers in every single scenario we walk into that we could potentially talk to. No one else matters. If they're not one of those five, it is a waste of your time. And then in regards to managed services, how many scenarios are there we could be dealing with? Four. So you quickly are aware of your surrounding, your scenario, your situation, whatever you want to call it, so that you can start to compartmentalize the data that you're going to need to access as you have that conversation. If you know that you're talking to a CFO in a hybrid solution, is any of the information that is relevant to an office manager, a general manager, a CTO, a CEO in an environment with a fully outsourced solution or no IT at all relevant? Not really. Probably not. Probably not going to need to access that data. So where in the back of your mind should all of your thoughts be circling around? The information that is relevant to that person in their position and their scenario. So your mind has to react. It's like it's a computer. It's a supercomputer, right? You ever turn your computer on, you're like, damn, it's taking forever to boot up? Or you got too many screens open? What happens when you have too many screens open and you try to access something new?
Well, hey, it crashes.
It just sits there and takes forever. It's slow. There's hesitation, right? Hesitation is the killer of confidence and certainty and trust, all right, with a customer. The longer you take to relay the information, the less compelling you become. So what do you have to do, Matt?
You have to be prepared so you're not hesitating. You have to know exactly who you're talking to and how to approach that person.
And if you can talk without interruption with confidence and certainty about a product's impact and educate and inform that customer on what it's going to do for them to get them what they want and need, do you think that's going to have a better chance of getting you what you want? 100%. So how we set expectations with customer on our value is we, one, understand the Blue Equinox experience that we want to relate to them. And then the method and the framework of how we go about doing that is explaining the 5-phase audit process so that they start to appreciate the efficiency that's going to come from this to help educate and inform them on the product knowledge that they need to gain that is going to come through the conversation with all of these different engineers and yourself conducting and orchestrating this entire audit experience like a perfect symphony that they're going to attend that is going to be such beautiful music when they're done. So, coming back to the value conversation, Blue Equinox experience, 5-phase audit, products, what's next? After we've talked about the products, you got products.
Our guarantees.
We like the products. Still not time for guarantees.
Do we, at this point, do we set expectations with heat maps and road maps and Killbox?
This is the greatest part of the conversation.
Compelling stories.
This is the greatest compelling story that we would tell to a customer. All right. After we've explained the 5-phase audit process, the product knowledge, walk them through that, right? The implementation experience where we will implement, manage, and maintain all services consulted by Blue Equinox to ensure a smooth and seamless integration. Why is this the most compelling to a customer? Why do you guys think? Why is it the greatest value to a customer?
It takes it off their hands. They don't have to worry about it.
Why does this matter? Takes it off their hands. Why is that important?
It may solve an issue if they've experienced refresh in the past and it's gone sideways. This solves or answers that question as to how it will be handled.
So one of the things that we hear the most when talking to a customer about a product or a service, when it comes time to talk about the implementation of those services, is the hesitation to move forward because of past experiences. Scott, I really like what you're saying to me right now, but my biggest hesitation is the fact that I have changed UCaaS providers before, voice service providers before, internet service providers before, managed service providers before, and it has been a complete clusterfuck. 2 days of downtime. Half a day of not being able to use their phones. No one knowing where to call to get support. So these are excuses, right? And if you think in the analogy of fires, you have forest fires, you have campfires, and then you got somebody dropped a match and a little leaf is burning. Like, to me, this is a little leaf burning fire. Because I am prepared with a value statement that is going to be so substantially greater than the excuse that you're giving me right now, that is going to squash out this fire. Mr. Customer, I understand that you've had problems with transitions of services in the past. That's the reason over 15 years, Blue Equinox has designed itself to solve this biggest problem that customers have by putting a project management team that's dedicated to you in place that is literally going to, before, during, and after, oversee the implementation process so that we implement, manage, and maintain your services for as long as you do business with us. We've been here and done this thousands of times in order to learn what works best so that we can ensure a smooth and seamless transaction. So that you can do what you do best, which is not this, and we can own this for you. All 100% free. So if you like the way the product sounds and the problem it's going to solve for you makes sense and is something you desire, know that Blue Equinox is going to own the implementation. And that's what's going to allow them to have the peace of mind to say, wow, that's pretty amazing. I really like what I hear. You guys are rare. You've interrupted my patterns. This is interesting. This is intriguing. You're making me feel like I need to take action. You guys see how all this sequence of events plays up to getting you what you want? What if we talked about a implementation process that's smooth and seamless on the front end? Logan, I'm really glad we're here today having a conversation on IT services. I want to talk to you about how we ensure a smooth and seamless implementation of the products and services that you do business with us on. What's going to come out of Logan's mouth? What the fuck are you talking about? I don't even know what you guys do. We haven't even talked about products and services yet. And you're talking about implementation? You guys see why the sequence of events matters? You have to start to build up the momentum in a conversation, the impulse meter, as I like to call it, by doing things a certain way, following the science. Okay, so implementation experience. Now, after we've talked about the implementation experience, now, what's next?
Now's the guarantees.
Now's the guarantees. Okay. So what are the guarantees that relay our value to the customer? Talk about implementation. It's going to be a smooth and seamless implementation. What's next? What are our guarantees?
Iron fist guarantee.
Woo! Iron fist guarantee. And just to reiterate it for the audience that's listening to us in the future, what is our iron fist guarantee? That we're going to what? Every vendor that we recommend.
Hold our vendors accountable.
Hold our vendors accountable for what, John?
The expectations that were set and the promises made.
Because at the end of the day, every salesperson is doing what? Those two things. Setting expectations and making promises. Setting expectations and making promises. What are customers most accustomed to with most salespeople?
Breaking those promises. Or over promising and under delivering.
Most salespeople over promise and under deliver. Have you did it before? Let's be honest.
Yep.
Let's be honest.
It's easy.
It's too easy. You accidentally do it, right? Do you mean to lie to a customer?
No.
You don't mean to lie to a customer. Most salespeople don't mean to lie to a customer. Like they don't literally. Most salespeople, I don't believe, have this thought in their mind. hey, this is what I want to say next, but I know it's a complete fucking lie, but I'm going to say it anyways because it gives me the best chance of winning the deal.
A
Now,
lot of time.
some do that. Some do that.
A lot of
But
times, some of those promises were made without understanding operations. Selling what you really can't provide, even though you think
Exactly.
you're able to, with the understanding that you go back to operations and say, hey, look what I sold. Good luck.
Exactly. Right. There's things that you can say, they're going to sound good, that overpromise, that extend the reach. Okay. Let me give you a prime example. Here's something that you can offer, that you can do as a brand ambassador that will bring more value to this conversation. But Blue Equinox's project management team doesn't have the capacity to do this with every single customer. Mr. Customer, listen, before we move forward with any of the IT solutions that we talk about and that we design to show you how they will solve your biggest problems, one of the things that I can do for you is if you will get me all your invoices and all your contracts, I can review those contracts and confirm your termination dates of all your existing services so that I treat your services just like they were my own. Because part of being educated and informed is knowing where you're at with what you got. And then having a path forward with the new services that you need in order to level up your business, stay relevant, competitive, and protected inside of your own industry. Now, how do you think I was able to say that fast?
Lots
Repetition.
of practice.
A lot of practice, shooting my free throws, right? There's certain things that can be done to bring extra value that right now is not a normal part of our value proposition. You need to know what those are. That's one of them. We're not going to go research the contract of every single customer that you speak to. Takes a lot of time to get them on the phone, for them to find the account, make sure you're added to the account. A lot of times you have to get the customer on the phone to add you to the account because of CP&I restrictions. So we don't do it, but you can do it. You, as a brand ambassador in boot camp, that's how you can assist your coach to bring more value to the conversation. So maybe that's something you guys work out, something that you can do to bring more value to the audit experience so that you guys crush that deal together. And it's as easy as telling the customer, hey, if you add me to your account, I will do all this due diligence for you. If I do a deal, it's something that I make sure gets done, either me or one of my team members. But it's not something we have the resources to do for everybody on every deal. Okay. Coming back to our guarantee. Actually, before I move on from that topic of conversation, what's one more thing that you can do above and beyond to bring even more value to the conversation that we don't typically do? Who can name one more?
Call escalation,
What's that?
the call escalation.
No, we do that. We do that every single time. I'm going to go ahead and give it to you guys so we don't run out of time. We can talk about the fuel. Mr. Customer, because I'm willing to treat your services just like they're my own, for this service that we're talking about and considering, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a matrix of the top 5 providers that provide these services to you and do the pros and cons of each one of those so that you can see a side-by-side comparison so that you can see how the hand-picked vetted provider that Blue Equinox has chosen for you to do business with makes more sense for you and your business than anyone else. I do this a lot with managed service providers. I'll take the ones in our portfolio and I'll compare them to the ones that are not, that don't have an SLA 4-hour response time, that don't have a 15-minute response time on tickets, that don't have 5-star Google review services, so on and so forth, to where we're like, look, picture paints 1,000 words. Which one of these providers would you choose to do business with? There's 5 options side by side by side. Those are things that you can do to be more compelling and show more value than we typically do inside of our normal framework. You will learn these things as you go, and then you keep them in your back pocket. Is this customer significant enough, large enough, valuable enough, financially rewarding enough for me to go and do even more work that shows even more value than is what is in our normal framework of how we operate? Okay, so guarantees, iron fist guarantee. What other guarantee do we bring into a conversation with a customer as we're starting to relay our value?
So we'll do the audit again after the 12 months. We'll reevaluate every year.
So we give $1,000 guarantee that we will find a risk, a liability, risk or liability in their existing stack. And then 12 months re-audit every single year. All right. And this is where our account manager comes into play to bring value. So now we went full circle with the customer. We've went through, we've laid out the entire Blue Equinox experience to them that is going to show them our value over someone else. And the large part of this value proposition that we deliver, the largest part, has nothing to do with, very little to do with product knowledge. When someone does business with you, it's because you've been relevant and you have said things that make them like you and your company and what you're going to do for them in order to get them what they want and need. The widget provider, there's dozens, literally dozens of them. To me, the third item here, products, it's plug and play. It's literally plug and play. If your cell phone breaks, what do? You go get a new one. How many times could you do that? Infinite. Infinite. You could go get a new cell phone every day if you wanted to. Same thing here with the widget. You could go get a new service provider every single day. Now, the time it would take to go to the store, look at your options, and make a new decision to get educated and informed, right? That's going to get pretty old pretty quick. It's why when you talk to someone that just made a change, doesn't matter what your value proposition is that you provide, well, they just went through this. They just bought a new cell phone. They are not in the market to buy a new cell phone. Yours better go invisible, transport them to another time and space, and do some amazing shit that they've never heard of before. Otherwise, they have no interest in hearing about what you have to offer. And that's where quality time with quality people comes into play. But does this help you guys with the conversation around relaying value, understanding that there is a sequence of events that has to play out in order to create and to build the compelling emotions that that customer will start to have to do business with you?
Yes.
Start to understand the science of sales and how the story builds up. It builds up. And when you can compartmentalize and break the story down, you can focus your energy on what you need to know now. Because when you know what you need to know now, and you can focus on it, you can pull it faster to the surface and use it. So knowing that guarantees don't matter right now, knowing that the implementation experience doesn't matter right now, knowing that the products doesn't matter right now, you can just focus on explaining the relevance of the design of the 5-phase audit. And then you can move to the products and knowing how they're going to impact the business to give them what they want. And those compelling statements, those phrases of how we group words together are going to be instrumental to help with that. Implement, manage, maintain, seamless and smooth. Words that begin with the same letters so that you can pull them from your data bank or your database faster. How do you guys remember names of people?
Try to
Anybody?
repeat it 3 times in the conversation.
Repeat it 3 times in the conversation. What else? What's another tactic?
You associate them with something you're familiar with.
Like someone else? If someone tells me,
Place or location.
yeah, if someone tells me their name is Colton, well, that is my 17-year-old son's name. I'm not going to forget that. That's easy. If someone tells me their name is David, I'm like, okay, who's the first David that comes to mind? Okay, we got an engineer, the global named David. I got a brother-in-law named David. Okay, got it. I associate them with one or more people that I know the name David. And now every time I speak to this person, I think about the 2 people that I know innately in my mind are named David. And when I think about those people, oh, yeah, this is David. But if you hear their name and you skip right over that thought process and you don't relate them to the engineer named David and the brother-in-law named David, next time you speak to them, what are you going to be thinking?
What's your name?
Yeah, what's their name? Who are they?
What's their name? Damn, I wish I would have associated with them with someone, or I wish I would have said their name 3 times in the conversation so that it popped into my mind sooner, but I didn't. All these are little techniques, right, to help you access data faster. Okay, so that's everything on today's lesson around setting expectation with the customer on our value. I hope that helps you guys understand the sequence of events. The fuel today that plays right into this as well is going to be around the concept of our words matter. And persuasive communications is all words shared in a powerful and persuasive way lead men to get things done. Words can be used for inspiration or to overpower. What's that mean? When you guys hear that, words can be used to inspire or to overpower. What does that make you think of?
Dual-edged sword.
Double-edged sword. It can be used for good or evil. What is the greatest way to control people?
Thoughts, process, and language.
I was gonna say, find out what they care about, find out what motivates them, and then and use that to your advantage.
So absolutely, right? That falls into being relevant. So if you look back in history and you look at people that were oppressed, made prisoners, kept poor, 100% of the time it was because there was a lack of information. They were controlled by keeping them stupid. And one of the things that I hate to see the most, or with where I'm at in my career today, is a W-2 salesperson or an agent out there trying to make it and them not being aware of a framework that could help them be more efficient and do business better to get them what they want faster, which is why we created Blue Equinox and set the structure the way that we did of the entire business model. Our sole purpose is to empower people by educating and informing them on a more efficient, more profitable way of them being able to do business for themselves. Without information, we cannot level up. We cannot become better versions of ourselves. So we create a framework. Core 4, body, being, balance, and business. And then in business, we create frameworks of how we operate to do what we do. We create sequences of topics of conversations so that that can play out and we can have this persuasive communication, transferring knowledge, transferring information so that people can get cleared. When people understand, it gives them power. Knowledge is power. Power is the ability to make change happen. So, persuasive communications. It's all about transferring knowledge so that we can empower people to level up their technology, their life, their relationship with God, right? Like if you look back if you're religious in the Bible, right, one of the ways they would oppress people is not sharing the scripture with them, not giving them access to the Bible. They literally collected all the Bibles, burn them, so that people could not read the scripture. Some countries make it illegal to even own a Bible. They would kill you just for having one in your possession because they didn't want people to study the word. Okay, second point on your words matter. It's a game of influence. Messages matter. They may lead us down a path that will liberate us or hold us prisoner, depending on how we react. It's up to us to go down the path of destruction and chaos, or certainty and enlightenment and power. Words are meant to inspire. Every single day, we're marketed to by people. And these words, they inspire us to do things. Well, when we're inspired to do things, that can either lead us to prosperity or it can lead us down a path of destruction and chaos. It's how we get ourselves into bad situations. They don't happen immediately, right? Things play out over time. Momentum is created either in a positive or negative manner. Most people don't kill themselves right away from drugs and alcohol. Most people's marriages don't lead to divorce overnight. While in the same regard, people's businesses aren't built in a day. Momentum is created, influence takes place, and results happen. Probably the greatest influencer of all time, Jesus Christ. When he walked into a marketplace and started talking, crowds gathered. And then his influence from his words created actions that, well, it pissed a lot of people off because it changed behaviors in people. It's no different. We aspire to be no different than that in the way that we do business, the way that we have relationships with our wives, with our kids. Right? We want to be great influencers. Some people think it only matters in business, but our words actually matter in every conversation that we have with any person ever. With our kids. Last night I took my kids to the basketball gym and told my 3 little guys we were going to play basketball. Well, I played 3-on-3 with my 2 older kids, and my youngest son when we were all tired and ready to go and they'd been shooting, he was like, okay, you said you were going to play with me. Let's play. And I was like, we've been here for 2 hours. You've been playing down there. We played 3 games of gotcha. He's like, I know, but you told me that you were going to play with me. My words mattered to him. So what did I do? I stayed 30 more minutes when I hadn't ate and I was tired as hell. And I played more basketball so that I didn't let him down. I'm sure you guys can relate, right? The things that our kids are the area that we drop the ball the most with our words when we have to choose where we're going to spend our time. So another message on that game of influence. It's not good enough to just share a message. You have to get people to want to live what you're speaking. And in business and in life, you want to be a strong enough influencer to where people want to take action. It's not good enough to just relay a message. That's where the dynamic and entertaining part comes in. That's where the passion of your words come into play. Just to speak the words could have no effect on someone if you're not applying passion to what you're speaking about. And the third point, unplug principles. The biggest power inside of your day-to-day experience is your ability to level up not just their mindset, but your mindset and your skill sets around your communications. Far greater is the importance of persuading yourself before you try to persuade anyone else. We literally have to sell ourselves to gain the confidence and certainty in the message that we're going to relay to the people that we're speaking it to, for us to believe it before we could ever hope for them to believe it. In order to do that, we've got to understand what we're talking about. There's nothing worse than a consultant talking about something that they don't even know themselves. We've all heard the line, we can fake it till we make it. Well, that's only going to get you so far, so long before you're exposed. We talked about exposure last week. We want to expose ourselves. The faster we can expose ourselves, the faster we realize our weaknesses, the faster we can level those up. So that's what it all boils down to, gentlemen. Your words matter. They matter to everyone that you speak them to. But most importantly, they matter to you. You have to believe the words that you're telling to yourself every single day. And then you have to go out with an energy and an effort being applied so the passion is felt, not just heard, with the words that you're choosing to say. And that is how you will compel people to do what you want. So we're a minute after. That concludes our fuel today. I hope this has been enlightening. I hope the sequence of how we relay value helps you guys as you start to tell the story to blue agents and to customers. And I hope you realize that every word that comes out of your mouths, they matter, not just to them, but to you. Have a beautiful day. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.